Okay, we are live. Awesome. So, for those of you who will eventually watch this back, or for those of you who are going to join, this is Gabi from Gabi's Arcanum, and she also has a booktube channel where she focuses on fantasy books. So, do you want to talk about that at all?
Hey, yes, my name is Gabriela. Everyone calls me Gabi. Yes, that's my channel. And yeah, I have a booktube channel since like 3 months ago, since December of 2020. I am from Chile, and yeah, I'm here to talk about books because I love reading. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah, so if you haven't checked her out, I definitely would. She does a lot of fantasy reviews, definitely focuses heavily on fantasy and has a lot of great opinions on that. So give that give that a go. There's a link in the description that hopefully works. If it doesn't, I'll try to fix it later. Anyway, we are going to talk about the Assassin's Apprentice today. We both just barely finished it. I finished it a half hour ago, right before this discussion would start, because I am a procrastinator. And Gabby finished it yesterday, right?
because I'm a procrastinator too.
But not as big a
It took
one.
me forever.
But let me see your copy, your cover.
It's in Spanish. It's a Spanish
Yeah,
cover.
that's
Yeah.
cool. I like the artwork on that one too.
Yeah, and the letters, I liked it a lot. When I saw
Yeah,
it like in the internet, I thought it was going like mass paperback, mass market paperback copy, but it wasn't. I was really, yeah.
yeah, I like it. It looks like we have Hannah's just stopping by for a minute because she has a Zoom call, but nice to see you, Hannah. Thanks for coming by. And David's here. He's been
Hey,
waiting all
David.
day for this. That's very kind. Thanks. So we're just going to start talking about the book that we read together with just some spoiler-free thoughts to begin with for those of you who haven't actually read it. You and I have only read the first. You haven't read the other ones, right? Because you just finished the first one yesterday.
Yes, yes.
So we've just read the first one. We don't know about the rest of the trilogy, but it's very highly acclaimed, so I wanted to read it. So, what are some of your spoiler-free thoughts about it, Gabby? Or maybe we should give a synopsis.
uh, I don't know. Should we give a synopsis?
Yeah, maybe a quick one. So this book is follows a bastard that's named Fitz that is left at the royal household and is kind of raised there. And it's kind of like a lot of the book has to do with like what do you do with a bastard, because obviously he has some claim to the royal line, but not that strong of one. So it's just kind of like what they use him for throughout the book. It's a lot more of like a political thriller fantasy than anything else. I was going into it almost thinking it would be something a little bit different, like maybe more of a magic system or more of a deep like assassin, like following an assassin, going back, like doing a bunch of things. You don't actually see that much of that. It's a lot more of like the game being played and politics and trying to figure things out with that is what I kind of felt from it. Did you feel the same way, Gabby?
Yeah, I went into it thinking it was going to be almost kind of like I was really blind in going really blind into this book. So I was really thinking it was gonna be kind of an assassin sort of school, maybe not school, but it was like, yeah, we are entering into an assassin's game or something like that with a lot more magic. And I came across with a first person narrative with a coming of age sort of story with
Mm-hmm.
this kid that starts with 6 years, and it's mostly like how his life goes. And yeah, and then you get into politics, which isn't in the forefront of the story at first, but then it gets super political. And yeah, that I actually liked it at the end, like
Yeah,
the
honestly, like I wasn't expecting a political thriller fantasy, but I really like them, so it was fine. I was definitely thinking like it would be more of the like inner lifestyle of like an assassin. It wasn't really that as much, but you're right. I wasn't really expecting the coming of age tale. And it is kind of in first person, but it's like him when he's older describing what happened to him in his childhood, which is a really interesting writing style for it for sure.
it's weird because it's too I felt it was a really formal writing style to be in a kid's mind,
Yeah, a
but
little
you
bit.
understand it because he is writing. I mean, I think this is Fitz like diary or something like that, or he's telling the story when he's older. So I think that's why the writing style is so formal. But it was weird at first to see it from the eyes of a kid of 6 years.
For
I don't know.
sure. No, I agree with you. And I think that the writing style was interesting though, because from the first person perspective, it allowed you to kind of have like a changing view of characters over time. And we're still in the spoiler free section, so I won't talk about that too much right now, but I think it really did lend itself to some cool things there. So, is there anything else that we can say that's spoiler free? Let's see.
Mhm, mm, mm,
Anything else you want to say on spoiler free? Anyone who's read it want to comment if you have read it? If you haven't, no big deal.
Um, yeah, I just wanted to say for those who want to get into this book and haven't, it's it's slow paced. I have to say, it's a really slow paced book. At least the first half, I pushed a little bit through it because it was a lot of description, a lot of meandering because we were in Fitz's head all the time. So yeah, I pushed through a little bit in the first half, and then the second half gets like more actions and stuff. But yeah, like if you want to get through it, like you have to know that it's slow paced. I
Yeah, and the prose is almost a, even though it's from first person, which is weird, the prose is a little bit flowery, where they do give you more than you need. In a way, it kind of felt like a story, in a way, like a childhood bedtime story, but not for children, for adults. Like it was kind of felt more like a classic fantasy, kind of one you'd expect to be written a while ago almost.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about that. Like it's actually super like classic fantasy.
Hmm.
Now that I think of it, I didn't think about it like that before. But yeah,
Yeah, so whereas right now, a lot of things are like more fast paced and more straight to it. This definitely had let you sit down and enjoy the story for a little bit before getting to the climax of it, so to speak. Anyway, anything else we should talk about spoiler free? I think it's honestly a great book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars just because there's a couple elements that just aren't the tropes I generally go for. But I recognize this is a very extremely well written book, and it really did make me feel like I was just listening to a bedtime story, but for an adult, and I liked the pacing myself. But yeah, there's a couple elements brought it down a little bit for me. What did you rate it, Gabby?
I rated like 3.5 because I like the story. I think it's really, really well written. But there's some things that don't work out for me. I don't mind the slow pacing so much. Like if I like the characters, and I liked how developed uh, Spanish, how how the characters grow and everything. But Fitz, I found him a little bit bland as a character, and that bothered me.
Yeah, I kind
So
of felt the same way. Like a lot of the side characters were really, really well developed and like had so much personality. You could tell who it was. But like Fitz himself, the main character, the bastard, is it feels like he needs a little bit more development. And I'm guessing we'll get that more in the series, but I don't
yeah,
know.
I mean, like I felt he had no personality, like not no personality, but not so much because he didn't get angry, or when he did, he didn't say anything, or I his reactions were really weird. Like I don't know. That's what bothered me the most, and he's the main character, and I think that took out of me some of the enjoyment of the story. But it's really it's really well written. I liked it.
Yeah. Hannah's talked about how it is slow pacing for her too, but the ending completely hooked her. She says it's a great intro to the series, which makes me feel like the series keeps going on as strong, so that's good to know. And then we have does it feel like something that was written in the early 1900s? I don't know if I would put like a decade on it or anything. It was written in 1995 in reality. I don't know if there I don't know if there's a time frame I'd specifically put on it. I just feel like it's more of a classic approach more than anything. So I don't know if I'd put a year on that. I don't know if you tried to put a year on what it feels like, Abby.
No, I would say it's like late 80s if I had to, like, because I could compare it with the classic fantasy of the 1980s or something like that, or 1990s. Not like Tolkien style, not like Tolkien style or something like that. Like
Yeah,
more
no, I'm not
modern.
talking about the Lord of the
So
Rings style.
not early 1900s like Ariel says, but yeah.
Yeah, like 70s or 80s. It feels like I was written in one of those two decades. I probably, if I had to, maybe I'd say that. And then we have, yeah, she agrees Fitz does feel a little bit like an observer. Like everyone else is super well developed, and he just could use a little bit more, at least at this point.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that we're going to get more into specifics, so that's probably the end of our spoiler-free discussion, unless you have something to add. And we're gonna get like more into details. If you want to leave, that's okay. No, we will not take offense. So let's get into like a deeper discussion on this, Gabby.
All right.
So I was thinking maybe we could talk a little bit about the magic system, I guess I could say. I mean, there's not really much of one, but we could talk a little bit about how magic is used in the book if you want to.
Yeah, I feel the magic is, it's weird because I couldn't call it a magic system, because it's like, at least for now, I think it grows. I hope so, but it's just the skill here, which is the magic that allows a person to see into others' mind and kind of control it as well, right?
Yeah, I kind of got that. I
It's
think it
not
depends
really
how like
defined.
strong you are with it, with how much you can do with it. But yeah,
And the wit that I found really interesting, and I think I like, for sure it's gonna be developed in later books.
yeah, I feel like there's a lot of
More.
foreshadowing with the wit in this one because Fitz is able to use the wit almost immediately, which is just the ability to communicate and like have a deeper relationship with animals. I Does it allow him to control animals? Did you get that? I was kind of like it's kind of like the other one, but for animals.
But
Is what
yeah, I think it's the, like, the parallel one for
Mhm.
animals, and I think he can control animals, but he won't because he loves them.
Yeah. But I mean, it's
Can
interesting
we
to me
talk
how
about like how horrible Robin Hobb is with animals? Like,
oh my gosh. Yeah, there's so many animal deaths in this.
can we talk about the dog death? Like, I was
Like at the
quite like,
end.
no, like in the very beginning, they make you think like
Oh,
Nosy
oh
is
my
dead,
gosh.
and I
Yeah.
was like, did you really kill the dog? Like, seriously? And then, okay, yeah, sure. And then we got Smithy, I think it was the name. I think it was
Uh-huh.
Smithy, the other dog, and then she killed him
Yeah, it's
again.
really sad. And I think that honestly, that was one element that really made me feel like the first person did something really interesting because you assume at the beginning of the book, Burrich, I don't really know how to pronounce it. I'm just going to say that. His caretaker that's like taking care of the animals and everything is like literally kills the dog, like because that's what Fitz thinks, so that's what we think for most of the book. And then it turns around that he actually never killed that dog. So it was like it kind of shows how the first person perspective allows you to have like a change in how you see the characters because you get new information as time goes on. Like the narrator is omniscient, which kind of was interesting with that as well.
Yeah, I really like that. Actually, after I found out that he didn't kill Nosy, I went back to that moment, and I thought like, but this guy loves animals so much. It didn't make sense that he would like kill the animal, but you're in Fitz's head, and you just feel like he doesn't feel the dog anymore. He doesn't hear the dog anymore, and it's like, no.
Yeah, but I was confused after I found out he never killed the dog. I was wondering how like that connection got severed. Was it just because Fitz believed it? Like believed he was
I think
dead,
it was
so
distance.
distance maybe? I don't know. Maybe yeah, he was such a little kid, so I wonder if almost distance had an effect. But then
Yeah,
what
but
also was really interesting to me is like why was Burrett so scared of the wit? Like he talked about people become animalistic and losing their ability to like function in normal society, but his fear from the wit was like overdone to me. Lasts throughout the entire book. Do you have any like predictions since we haven't read the other ones?
well, maybe it is really dangerous, and or maybe it's just a prejudice that noble people have about this, because animals are like, I don't know, inferior for them. Maybe it's just that, or maybe it has something to do with, I don't know, but with the fort, you know?
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe
there's
it could have something to do
something
with the
there
forge.
connecting the
Yeah, because
fort
the
and the
forged
wit.
are like they lose basically all their humanity when so what it's really hard to just describe. So this group, what's the group's name again? That's kind of going against them and making all these forged people that
The
were
red
taken
sails,
and then returned basically
red
empty
ship
of
raiders,
everything. The Red Raiders,
red ship raiders.
Red Ship Raiders. Yeah, that could be connected because it's like they come back animalistic, like they're able to do their basic things they need to, but that's about it.
Yeah, but now that I think of it, when Fitz was in the forge, like the first time, and he tried to fill them like animalistically with the wit, he couldn't either.
Oh, that's
He
true.
said like he didn't feel anything. So maybe I'm just talking nonsense. Maybe it has nothing to do with that.
That's what all predictions are, though.
Yeah.
When you don't know what you're talking about, that's what all predictions are to me, anyway.
Yeah.
And then going off the after that, like there's the time where he tries to develop the skill, but obviously we have Galen, who is a character that immediately hates him.
Oh.
So he's not able to develop that immediately.
No. Galen is terrible. I would hate him if Regal wasn't there. Yeah, I hate them both. But yeah, when he actually, I think Fitz is really, really skilled with the skill, like inherently. But he actually, I think he deals with so much stuff, with so much bad stuff in his life that he doesn't have confidence. So it was easier for Galen to like get to him with the skill. And I don't know how it's called in English when they make you do things with the skill. What was
Let's
the
go with
term?
that.
Anyway, I think his lack of confidence and how terrible his life is, because that's especially what this book is about. Galen was like really able to get to him super easy and make him think that he just couldn't get the skill,
Yeah,
and that's
because
why
Fitz
it
was
lasted
convinced
so
at one
much,
point
the
that
effect.
he couldn't do it. And it was really because Galen had worn him down.
Yeah, and I think the effect lasted so much because, I mean, Fitz's life it's already super hard, so he doesn't have the confidence. I don't know if you think that might be a case or so.
Yeah, and I think later when Verity it kind of talks about the skill and you get to see that there is like the direct, crazy, get in your face approach with the skill that Galen has and tries to teach his students with, and then Verity talks about like there's a softer way to use it, and that's like usually the more effective way, and that Galen wasn't actually that good at the skill anyway. He just somehow got that position. That was interesting. I'm looking forward to the future books to see the skill more and to see it used in a more gentle way than
Mm-hmm.
you see, especially throughout the training kind of montage that's going on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that personally.
Yeah, and especially because in the last part of the book, when we see the skill being used between Fitz and Verity, when hell breaks loose and they're in, how was this place called? Jampa, this realm, this kingdom of the
Oh, the
mountains.
kingdom. Let's just. Oh, you mean like
Oh, what was the name? Jampe, something like that. Jumpy. I don't know how
Okay.
it's pronounced. Okay, the thing is, the skill is used there when Fitz is in trouble and Verity comes and takes like, and the narration of that part is so confusing. Like I would love to see the skill used in a more gentle way and a way that we can sort of understand what's going on.
Yeah, and I don't think we're ever really going to understand it, the series, because it's really not hard magic. It's not scientific. It's not something you can
Yeah.
write down and say this is how it's used. But regardless, I do look forward to more of like the gentler approach. I also kind of want to talk about like Fitz's childhood and kind of like his parental figures. So I thought it was really interesting when his, biological father, Chivalry, decides to give up his claim to the throne and move away. And later in the book, it's kind of hinted at that maybe he chose to do that for his son so that his son didn't come into the limelight. And I thought that I was just never really sure if that was the correct choice to make. Do you have an
I
opinion on that?
Yeah, I didn't like that so much. I Because they talk about chivalry like he is like the best guy ever, the best man, and he just goes away without any explanation. And I would have liked like maybe he would appear later in the book at some point, but kill him off like right away after like you like Fitz knows from other people that he is this great man, but he just left him in the city. Like he declined his right to the throne. That's why he said it.
Yeah.
And yeah, he did that, and then he didn't appear again, and then he's dead. I didn't like how that was handled.
This is
Actually,
how I wish it was what he would have handled it. So say he's really thinking that the best thing for his son is for his son not to seem like a threat. So that's kind of why he, so to speak, stepped down and got out of his life. Even if he thought that him going away would be better for his like son not to immediately be killed or something like that, and this all this political intrigue that's going on, he still could have sat down and had a conversation with his son before he left. Because it's hinted at that he went and saw Fitz and like watched him sleep and like saw like, okay, yeah, this is definitely my son, and then went away. And part of the whole thing was he was afraid his wife wouldn't be able to handle it because she was very jealous about it. But he still just could have had that conversation, even if he thought that was the best path to take. And not
yeah,
having that conversation made me feel like it didn't feel as authentic to me. Even I mean, there is a side that maybe he was afraid that the kid would get like ideas that he was like important if he talked to him, and so then would be like a bigger contender for the throne. I don't know. I just didn't really love the approach he took.
yeah, me neither. Because I kind of felt like Robin Hobb didn't want to deal with chivalry, like with his character, so she just like drove him away. And then, well, I really like this scene between Patience, Lady Patience, and Fitz at some point. But let's talk about it later because that's when he grows up a little bit and meets Lady Patience.
Okay.
But oh, or not?
You
Well,
know, I think that you make a good point that maybe she didn't want to deal with him, but at the same time, I also think it might be interesting for the story to have like all this almost this mythical great figure that's dead that can't help anymore, and everyone's always comparing to like the loving memory of this person that maybe he wasn't even that perfect in reality, but always having that ideal and that like mythical perfect ruler really was interesting throughout the rest of the book because everyone was constantly comparing everyone else to chivalry in some way or
yeah,
the
yeah,
other.
yeah. I
So
think
that
that
part
that's
I
a way of
liked, but I wish
storytelling.
that there was more at the beginning at least with the relationship with his son.
Yeah. Well, talking about father figures for Fitz, were Burridge. I don't know how you call it.
We'll
Uh,
just go Burridge.
Burridge is a really weird father figure because he hates him, and it's really sad because when Fitz is like 6 years after the thing with the dog happened, the first the first thing with the dog happened, um, Fitz is like Fitz is so alone. He feels so lonely all the time that even though he hates Burridge, Burridge, for what he did, uh, he just needs him. He still feels the need to be with him because his life is so lonely. So they become like father and son out of need.
Yeah, I definitely see that. And I think that their relationship, I mean, it's complicated, but it definitely progresses because at first, Burrich almost treats him just like another animal. Like he is chivalry's man and he takes care of the animals and he doesn't know what to do with the kid. And I thought that was really funny, just like throwing him in the stable and just feeding him.
Put him with the dogs.
And then gradually he realizes that there needs to be a little bit more interference, a little bit more of like a parental figure. So he gives that as it's needed. But I honestly think he showed a lot more love than a lot of the other characters, even though it was complicated to the end because of his weird dynamic with the wit that we already discussed. So
Yeah, but I mean, it's I liked it because he's super proud, Boris. He's super proud. So he just like he wants to make Fitz believe that it's just because he's chivalry's son and he was a king's man and everything. but you see, like throughout the story, and Fitz doesn't realize it, like ever, that Burish actually cares about him a lot, and he
Yeah,
actually like he just realizes after what happened in this kingdom, um,
for sure.
all this thing that I screamed when I thought he was dead, when he was talking to Regal, and then it was like in a fraction of a second, like when they how you say, sorry, translating Spanish to English.
You know, little known fact about me, I actually do speak Spanish, but I don't think anyone else does. So,
No. No, but when they hit Burridge in the head and you think he's dead, I was like, are you kidding me? Like
yeah.
again, like another like important
She really
person
plays with
Fitz
your
just
emotions with these
died.
characters for sure.
What?
She really does play with your emotions a little bit with all these fake deaths and some real ones. It's just funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got a question: how much of the book is he a boy? I think he's a boy for. Well, he never really leaves. Like he's. I don't know. By the end of the book, he's still not really a man. He's like an adolescent,
He's
but like
like
a little kid.
15, I
I don't know.
think.
It feels kind of gradual to me.
Yeah, but I think he's like a 15, and for the half of the book I think he's like 10, like 12,
Hmm.
like to the half of the book, and then it's just like 2 more years into his teenage years, I think.
Yeah. So at the beginning, he's a little kid. Towards the middle, he's like getting trained, and he's like more of like 10 to 12, something like that. That's my guess. And then towards the end, he's like 15. He's like an adolescent. So he's
No.
never like a man during this book, but he's a kid the entire time.
Yeah, and he thinks like a kid all the time. It's not like he grows up like mentally so much.
Yeah. And then the only other parental figure that I can kind of think of as one is actually like King Shrewd. And not in like a loving parental way, but he does notice Fitz and then gets him started on his lessons and on his training. And I love how direct King Shrewd is. Like he has these discussions of we have to do something with him because if we don't make him like basically come under our wing and do what we want him to, he can later challenge us as like a bastard and a person with royal blood. And he says that like outright, like right in front of Fitz, so Fitz knows exactly how the king thinks. And I thought that was really interesting.
I
In a
like that,
way, it's kind of like a grandfather figure, I guess. And
but he acts like a master politician all the time. Like I like that. I like that he is super direct with Fitz because I mean he has a kingdom to like reign. So I'm sorry. Um I like how direct he is with Fitz because he's like his first sorry. I my
everyone's patient, don't worry.
I'm sorry. Sometimes I have to translate in my head before I speak. And well, I do like how direct Shoot is with Fitz because he is the king, so the political things are first. That's how I say it. I'm sorry. And so whatever you just go through. I will.
Okay.
Sorry, sorry,
Yeah, no
sorry.
worries. Here's another thing I kind of want to talk about. So I mean, just like any bastard in any book like this, any fantasy, he doesn't really fit in either world. I felt like he doesn't really fit with the royals, but he doesn't really fit with the commoners either. So he has like some friendships that are commoners, like Molly,
Oh,
and those
Molly.
children that would call him new boy and would play with him when he was allowed to roam free before he was discovered and told to act a little bit more like a son of his father. So it's kind of interesting how he can both and it sometimes fit in with like just commoners, normal people, and sometimes fit in with royalty, but never completely fit in with either. And I thought that was an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, that's interesting and sad. I think that's that's the thing. Fitz doesn't fit anywhere. Like So he's just alone all the time. Like his only real friends are the animals, and also thanks, Dave. uh, so I feel like when he can't like talk with the animals or connect with the animals, and he wants like some people to talk to, then he goes to the city, and then he finds Molly, and I think that's why he's so attached to Molly, because she is kind of she's kind of what like puts him. I am terrible at this.
You are not, really.
And like Molly is like one part of himself. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think he's so attached to her in some points.
Because it's kind of like still being attached to that part of himself.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, as he gets older, kind of is a lesser part of himself as they keep trying to mold him into what they want him to end up being for the kingdom. I honestly think it was kind of sad too that he never really, because you could tell he was interested in Molly, but never really did anything with that, and that was kind of sad, even though she
And
was
then
2
he
years older.
found out like, oh
He tried something too little, too late.
yeah, poor
It was
Fitz
sad.
again. It is all about poor Fitz. Like
Yeah, this
handling this
book could
stuff.
also be renamed Poor Fitz. I don't really know if Assassin's Apprentice fits because there's not that much assassin work. There's a little bit, but I definitely could see it being called Poor Fitz.
Poor Fitz, yes. I
Okay,
think
here's
that's
a
a
good
good title.
question. What did you think about Fitz's decision to go off script during the missions? I honestly think that's how he was trained in a way. Like when he was being trained with, what's his name, Chade, his
Chade. I love
master
Chade
assassin.
actually. I think he's a really cool father figure to him.
Yeah,
So
Chade is also a cool father figure we missed a little bit. Chade always would tell him, like, make sure you don't do anything you can't take back, or make sure that when you do something, it's really well thought out and that you've thought about the consequences and everything. So I think him going off script during missions is actually kind of going back to his training and looking at the idea behind his training rather than always following orders that may not be as effective as originally thought out.
I also think I agree that this like going off script is something that goes with his formation, because I like that Shade like instructs Fitz in a way that he's not an assassin, just like he's not just a knife, you know, like he makes decisions and he has to make the choices, because in some places, in some stories, the assassin is just a knife, the guy that gets the job done, and this is not the case, and I really like that.
I almost feel like if he had the choice, he wouldn't have chosen to be an assassin. Like
No, not at all.
I don't think that's his personality. I think it's literally like it's kind of put on him. I think he would have been a lot happier working with animals, or even being a scribe, or an apprentice to a scribe, or like we kind of see throughout the book. I think being an assassin is never really his passion, even though he does his best with it. And
Yeah,
it's
he
interesting
actually,
how loyal he stays to the king and to Verity the entire book. Like I wondered going in if like he would, as a member with the royal blood, if he would like come up with his own plot, but he kind of stays loyal to the people in power the entire time.
yeah, but you see in the end of the book that when he says my king, he's thinking already in Verity, because he
Yeah,
doesn't know
that's
if
true.
Shoot was actually the one who sent Regal uh, to make this plot to murder him. We're not really sure about what Shoot knew and what he
That's true
didn't.
because Shrewd always kind of hints that he likes his third son better than his second. And
So we
Verity
don't know
challenges
what's
Avery
Shoot's role
basically.
in this, and so Fitz says like, I say my king, but when I say it, I think about Verity, not Shoot. Last
Yeah.
part.
Which I think kind of goes a little bit with him going off script a little bit. Like he doesn't just blindly follow everything. He also tries to find what's best in the situation.
Yeah, I love Verity, by the way.
What do you think about, I mean, we keep saying these names. What do you think about the author's choice to have the names mean something? Like parents give their children a
Yeah,
virtue as a name, at least like royal parents when they're
I
born.
at first I didn't like it. I was like, because I really like cool names in fantasy. So at first I like, what, really like so boring. I don't know. I didn't like it. I did, but then like it kind of grew on me. It was interesting to see, like, it was kind of fairy tale esque.
Hmm.
It had like some fairy tale vibes for me to use that kind of names. I don't know. How was for
Yeah.
you?
And I know some cultures actually do that a little bit more than like mine does. Like I know like in China they often give children names kind of that are almost virtues like this, like what they want their child to be. And in a way I think it's really sweet. I think it also shows a lot about the parents. I mean, we have King Shrew that has his first wife that has his first two children, and then his third wife names her first son Regal because she
Right.
wants her son to be the one in charge. So it's kind of, it shows. I think it was honestly another way to show personality of people who aren't even really in the story, because she dies pretty early on, but through like that lasting name and through some of those things you get to remember a little bit about her kind of power hungry side. So I thought that was interesting with it.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I like them like later because it gave me kind of a fairy tale esque vibe. But
It
yeah,
took
I
some
was
getting used
like,
to.
huh?
It took some getting used to.
Yeah, and then when I was like getting used to it already, I was like, what's so regal about regal? Like,
I know, like
no.
some of the names fit better than others. I think with the names too, another really interesting thing is not just the names that the royals are giving, but the different names Fitz goes by throughout his like story. Like we start with Boy, like he doesn't even remember his name, and it
Yeah,
goes from Boy to Fitz. Let's see, I think I have it written down to Thomas,
Thomas.
Thomas to
Because for some
Fitz
reason he didn't
Chivalry.
tell he was Fitz to Lady Patience. I have no idea why, but he didn't tell her like I don't have a name. He's like, call me what you want.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
so this is verifying that what I said is accurate. Yes, Asian names are like that. It's hard to live up to your name's meaning. I think that would be hard. Like it shows so directly what your parents wish of you. I mean,
yeah,
my name is Allison. It doesn't have any deeper meaning, but if I did have a name that had like some type of deeper virtue, I think that there would be a tiny bit of pressure to live up to
yeah.
that.
I think
Maybe
so
almost
too.
in the scope of the fantasy story, maybe it's on purpose because they want their children to live up to that, and it gives that pressure to act regal or to act chivalrous, or all the different names they have. But
Yeah,
anyway, with Fitz, I think that it's interesting because as he grows up, he gets names that are like a little bit more distinguished. Like he ends with them calling him like Fitz Chivalry, kind of like getting his father's name back into his name. And he starts off with Boy. And I think it really kind of shows the progression of him as a character and how they increasingly see him as important throughout the story.
same. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to talk about, it was the world building.
Hmm.
That, well, I usually care a lot about the world building in the stories, and I thought we didn't get so much about the world building in this book. I Mainly because we're in Fitz's eyes and he hasn't like gone out of the city so much. And I'm guessing like in the later books we see more of that, hopefully.
Maybe. Yeah,
But
hopefully.
I found interesting that what we got about the world building mostly in the book was in this epigraph. Are the epigraphs these paragraphs that were like in the beginning of each chapter?
Hmm.
We got a lot of world building there and lore, like some customs of some people, and I found that really interesting.
I did too. I have to be honest though. I'm one of those fantasy authors that reads that part quicker than the rest because I want to get back to the story. But yeah, when I did sit down and read it, I'm like, huh, this is interesting. I also like the. I mean, eventually when we go up to those people that are living in the mountain when they're forging that marriage alliance, I
I
like to see
love
like the
that.
difference between the customs. I think that definitely had some world building elements. They were. I loved how like their leaders acted like servants, and it kept throwing Fitz off because like people that were acting as a servant was actually like members of like the noble family there. I thought that was cool. Just and he keeps mentioning how Regal doesn't do any research to learn about their culture and to like act appropriately when they're there. I thought that distinction was definitely the biggest world building part for me.
Yeah, I loved going to that city. To that city, actually, I was like, oh, the colors, and yeah, I love like good world building, and that was the best world building we got in the entire book. And I really like the culture. I found really interesting what you said, that all the royal people were also servants, and actually they're named like sacrifice. They're not named kings or queens, they're named sacrifice because they live for their people. And I found that really interesting, and such a contrast between the people from the six duchies. How is it?
Yeah, six
How is that?
veggies.
Six duchies, and the people from Jimpa. That
Yeah, I don't remember the name of that town actually, or that area. But I thought it was interesting too that the bride to be chose to go forward with the wedding after her brother was assassinated. Like she had, like I felt like that was such a part of their culture to be loyal and to like care about the people that they're kind of sworn to in a way. To where she decides to be queen of the six duchies even after there was that whole plot to assassinate her brother.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because the people from the six duchies, in some of the epigraphs we get, they say that these people from the mountains are like more barbaric and stuff. And then when you get there, and they're like, "Ah, these people are more civilized than than the farseers, the guys from the six duchies." And it's just like a cultural thing. It happens in the real world as well, you know,
For sure.
like Occidental culture thinks that other people are barbaric, but actually who's invading who and stuff. It's like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, it just how you see the other group is really just dependent on your own customs, not how they actually are. Another thing, let's see, I have written down here is you were kind of mentioning how bad things always happen to Fitz. Like this could be renamed that terrible things always happen to him. And I just wrote down like all the times that people tried to kill him.
Really?
So I mean, we have. Oh my gosh, now I can't even see. So when he's sent up in his test for the skill, it's called the skill, right? And Galen sends him to like the worst place possible without any like
Or
of the without a horse or the things he sent with the other kids, and so he's likely to die, and they expect him to die, and then with the everything with the poison later on. So it's just interesting. Not only is he constantly going through terrible things, but people do try to kill him a couple times in this book. So what do you think about that?
well, it's part of his miserable life of being an assassin, I think. Like,
I don't even know
yeah,
if
I
it's about being
found,
an assassin though.
huh? Yeah,
I don't know if
because
it's
every time someone tried to kill, no, you're right. The first time was when Galen sent him in this test for the skill, and he sent him to the forge, like straight there. Like he actually wanted him dead. So he sent him like straight there just for being the bastard, and because like I think he and Regal already had like a plan for him, because they said that's when they sent an assassin to Burridge's house, right? Yeah, but then it was just two times that people tried to kill three, and the other two, and the other two was because he was an assassin. Like,
yeah,
but I think it falls into the stuff happens to
all the
Fitz
time.
all the
Yeah.
time.
And then I also like the relation. I think it definitely gets more throughout the rest of the series. But the fool, who's all constantly warning him
Oh,
and giving him what he needs to survive, and he really, I mean, without the fool, Fitz would be dead by book one for sure.
yeah, I found his character so interesting and so intriguing. I actually like I made a lot of notes inside the book, and
Yeah,
there are a lot of them about the fool. Like, what does he mean? What does he want? Why?
what does it
And
mean?
it's so weird when Fitz goes to the fool's room,
Uh
and
huh.
you see all these colors and this sort of baby doll, like looks like real, and I was like, what does this mean? Like, this guy has to be something different. Maybe he has another kind of magic we haven't learned yet.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I know Hobb does more with the fool in future books because I've heard people kind of talk about that being a thing. But I don't know. This book alone was enough to interest me. Like without him, he'd definitely be dead.
But he's the most intriguing character in this story, I think.
Yeah.
I'm really, really curious about his
All the
character.
side characters are really well developed, but he has the most mystery.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I say that on purpose. All the side characters are really well developed.
Yeah, which are
Because
basically
Fitz is
everyone
not.
except Fist. Yeah, I really think Fitz needs to get a little spice on him, like a little more personality, like show me some anger, show me some expressions, show me some smiles and everything. Like I don't know, he doesn't react to things
I
in
almost
that.
wonder if she wrote him like that because she wants people to be able to put themselves in Fitz in a way, like make him seem like identifiable with anybody by not giving him a personality. But I personally don't like that approach.
Yeah, I don't think so actually.
No.
No.
Anytime an author writes a really bland character, I'm always like, maybe she just wants you to put yourself in his shoes and pretend to be him. But yeah, I really wish that there was more to him. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Gabi?
um no, I just wanted to talk about a little bit, like really short about the villains,
Yeah.
like Regal and Galen.
Hmm.
I I had like mixed feelings about them because they seem super tropey. Uh, because like Regal is the third prince, like the third in line, this pompous prince and stuff, like super. From the beginning that he's plotting something. It's something. There's something about him. And Galen is like this bastard that he's ambitious and he wants the throne as well and everything. But like they were tropey, but they were so well written in my opinion that I ended up hating them with all my heart. I wanted to punch Regal in the face every time he opened his mouth, and I like that. I mean, even though they're really predictable villains, they're like really well written.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. I didn't feel like after reading The Assassin's Apprentice that I had read something that had a lot of new ideas. Like I felt like a lot of these were that's why kind of in the beginning we were almost describing it as feeling almost classic, like a little bit older of a feel of a fantasy. But when it came down to it, I don't like there's a couple tropes I hate. This book didn't have any of the ones I really hate, but any trope can be written well, and regardless of how this book doesn't have that much new to it. It is executed so well that it doesn't even matter anymore. So I felt the same way about the villains, even though they could have been slightly predictable. I hated them anyway.
Yeah. Do you have any predictions for the next book?
You know, making predictions on a series that people have already read always makes me feel stupid because I know there's gonna be people listening that are like, "You are wrong." But I mean, I'm sure next book is going to get more into the Forged, and I have a prediction that we're going to see the magic system maybe come out a little bit more, like maybe what you were hinting at with the Fool. Maybe there's something we don't know there that's going to go further, and yeah, I think that Fitz would stay loyal as long as it's Verity in charge, but I think he would go a different direction if like Regal became in charge or something like that, because I don't think he would serve him as faithfully. So it really depends on what happens for what he will do, in my opinion.
Yeah. I've seen like people hate Regal so much more in later books. So
Yeah, it's probably gonna get worse.
yeah. Yeah, but my theories and my hopes are like we get to know a little bit more about the Forge because it was super vague in this book, and I think it might be one of the main plot points in later books.
Yeah, I definitely think that I have to go back to that because that has not been resolved.
Yeah, it's not really a prediction. It's just like I hope they talk more about
I
this.
hope it goes well. I hope that it's executed well.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope they give Fitz a little bit more personality
Yeah, me too.
and make his life not that hard, please. Like it's so much to ask. Like don't kill
You don't want the
dogs.
second one to be Poor Fitz Volume 2?
Yeah, don't kill more dogs. Like it's not
Don't kill more
necessary.
dogs.
I
That's
was
another thing we have
I
to
was
talk.
Reading
Please don't
and I
kill more
was
dogs.
I have a dog. I love dogs. And I was like, why are you killing dogs so much? This is not good. But yeah.
Now, after that first one, I'm always going to hope that it's fake. Like a dog will just come back from the dead and start helping
Oh,
out.
that was so beautiful. I was like, oh, he's here. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, anything else?
No, it's okay. Thanks for
Okay,
having me.
well,
I'm sorry about my
you
sometimes
did no, you're doing great. You added a lot to this,
my
honestly.
mind goes off sometimes, or sometimes I have to translate like inside my head and it takes a while. So
If we were doing this in Spanish, I would be in your position.
yeah.
Okay,
Well,
thanks.
thank you for inviting me here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us if you watched even part of this or all the way through. And hopefully we'll see you later. Go ahead and check out Gabi's. Well, that's not the wrong direction. Wait, Gabi's channel if you haven't already. It's in the description. It's also called Gabi's Arcanum if the link does not work. Bye.
Okay. Thank you, guys. See ya. Bye bye.